Jackson Arnold is the SEC's leading rusher after week one. But will Hugh Freeze continue to ride his legs instead of his arm? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Pour. I'm your host, Mike Z. Turn us on, turn us up, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend, Zach Blackerby, host of Locked on Auburn, to talk a little Auburn football here on a Friday afternoon. Zach, on this first half of the show, I want to talk about Jackson Arnold, his performance in game one, and what to expect from him the rest of the season. Let's start at the top here. He is the SEC's leading rusher, 137 rushing yards from Jackson Arnold. Sure. He looked every bit of the freak that Hugh Freeze said he was when he recruited him. He liked him in high school. He likes him now. And I got to tell you, I don't think we've seen the best from Jackson Arnold. If you are worried about whether Auburn can maintain, I'm here to tell Auburn fans, Jackson Arnold has got his best football still in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many parts of the offense that Auburn didn't have to utilize this past Friday night. I think we're going to see them kind of incorporate more passing and more Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton and Malcolm Simmons and Horatio Fields. I mean, it might happen this weekend against Ball State. But yeah, we all knew that Jackson Arnold had the physical tools that were needed. It was, could he consistently make the right decision? And small sample size for 1 weekend, but so far it seems like he has been able to make the right decision consistently when the lights were on in this new RPO offense with Hugh Freeze.
Zach, there was a statement made by a lot of people that Auburn could not pass the ball versus Baylor, and I don't agree with that. I think Auburn did not pass the ball versus Baylor because they didn't have to. Now they're going to have to pass the ball come SEC play a lot more than they did potentially on Friday versus Baylor. But you know what if you're Hugh Freeze, what do you do the next couple of weeks? Do you just continue to run this offense the way we saw on Friday, or do you let Jackson Arnold floated up to these receivers? Cam Coleman high-pointed a football on Friday night. It was as athletic a catch as we've seen all night. You got top-flight receivers. I got to believe they're going to try to get the passing game going the next few weeks headed into Oklahoma.
Yeah. I mean, good football teams, they get better from week to week. And so if Auburn wants to take that next step forward as a program, they need to evolve and get better from week to week. And so you do that by developing different things. You know, I'm a big Patriots guy, and something that they brought up a ton when Tom Brady was in his heyday there was, we want to make defenders defend every blade of grass. And when you have the receivers like Auburn has and the offensive line like we think Auburn has, and you know the upside and skill that we think Jackson Arnold has, you want to make these defenders have to defend every blade of grass. And that doesn't happen week one. It doesn't happen week two. It happens some point later in the season when you really get everything going. And so what do you do against Ball State? What do you do the following week leading into Oklahoma? It's all about just taking steps forward as an offense and as a team. And some of that has to do with, okay, we got to pass the football more. If it's not deep stuff, you got to learn how to pass some stuff underneath just to get the ball in Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, Malcolm Simmons' hands. But I think the starting point for Auburn is much higher than I expected it to be with what they did against Baylor. And so now we'll see what the next steps look like against Ball State this weekend.
Zach, was there a better quarterback than Jackson Arnold in week one in the SEC, do you think? Was there one quarterback that you saw?
For sure. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see all of Jackson's game, so it may not be a 1-to-1, but certainly he was outstanding at the thing that he was good at, and that was running the football. So, you know, we'll see what he has with his arm. Before
and this is a loaded league at quarterback. I mean, to specifically ask, I mean, what Garrett Nussmeier did in the second half against Clemson. I mean, I don't know if there's a better player in college football right now than Garrett Nussmeier. I was high on him going into the year. I think he'll be the number one pick in the draft. I think he's going to have any accolade that he wants in front of him. I think he's going to have the opportunity to seize it, and him going head-to-head with the other potential QB1 in Cade Klubnik. I thought that was pretty telling. Marcel Reed and Texas A&M, they kind of struggled in week 1 to some extent, and they turned it on. I'm really high on Marcel Reed. And then, we'll see what some other guys happen. We'll see what happens with Arch Manning over the course of the season. But this is a loaded quarterback year for the SEC. And so Jackson Arnold going into the year was ranked like 10th or 11th in these quarterback lists, depending on where you looked. And some he was ranked as low as 15, which I thought was a little ridiculous. But I still don't know how much I would move him up just because of how loaded the quarterbacks are in the SEC right now.
Yeah, Garrett Nussmeier was my number 1 quarterback in the SEC. I was asked this question multiple times this offseason, right? I thought he was the best coming in, certainly. But in week 1, in the conference, John Mateer led all quarterbacks in yards passing at 392 yards. Now, the opponents have to be considered here. But Jackson Arnold's 108 yards. That's not going to hold. He's going to pass.
It's weird, Mike. Sometimes the opponents matter for some guys, and sometimes it doesn't for other guys. It's very odd. It's almost like everybody has a narrative they're trying to push.
Yeah, true. True. I'll tell you this. It seems like it's wide open right now. I think week 1 showed us that it's not just Georgia and Texas and everybody else. There are going to be some other teams in this conference that have a say in how this college football playoff shakes out. And Auburn potentially send a message that we could be one of those teams. I think most people had Alabama as a lock to make the playoff. And I'm not so sure that they are going to be a lock to make the playoff. They got to play Wisconsin, who they should win that game. But and Georgia in the next 3 weeks. If you're Auburn, you've got a chance to make a real statement here. It starts with quarterback play. It starts with strong quarterback play. Before we get out of here, Zach, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the Baylor game. Was that game what you expected? I called it 38-21. They won 38-24. But what surprised you the most about Friday night?
I think it was definitely the defense in key moments, just not really seizing opportunities consistently. And they eventually got it done. But I thought there would be more dudes that stepped up in certain moments and said, all right, you're not converting here. And that didn't happen. And some of the guys that I think had pretty rough games, I was a little surprised with, especially like in the safety room. A lot of those guys I think are really talented. A lot of those we've seen them be great so far in their early in their Auburn career. So I'm not super concerned about it because they've got enough tape to prove that they know what to do and to be in the right place. But I was definitely surprised with safety play. I think we see a big step forward there over the next few weeks.
I know Auburn fans will be happy to hear that the secondary got torched for 400 yards. Sawyer Robertson is a very good quarterback. I had no expectation Auburn was going to shut him down completely, but certainly you would like to see them not give up 400 yards passing to any quarterback.
Sure.
Zach Blackerby, before we get out of here, I gotta get a score prediction for you versus Ball State. This is a game Auburn should win. Give me a score.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the score that I said on this morning show. I think I said 45-10.
45, only 45 points. Okay.
No, I think I said 49-10.
49-10, 7 touchdowns. I can live with 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think I said 49-10.
I got Auburn 60-10. So they're going to score a few more. McPherson's.
I hope you're right. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Look, man, if Deuce gets a chance to get in this ball game, I don't think they slow down. I think that they continue to sling it around and get something.
Yeah, it's a unique situation because if you put Deuce in, you're almost encouraged to continue running the full offense, not just go in and hand the ball off and, just kind of run clock. I think they need to see what they have in Deuce Knight. So, yeah, I mean, if you're right, that means Deuce Knight had a big game, and that'll be the main thing Auburn fans will be talking about afterwards.
Hell of a recruiting pitch to say, hey, come here and play with this guy. He's already good. Zach Blackerby from Locked On Auburn. I want to thank you for joining me. We're going to get to the break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Logan Fowler, senior writer at thewarreport.com, and we're going to talk some offensive and defensive line. This segment of The War Report is brought to you by our friends at The Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, visit the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. It's right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to the Renfro Supermarket and the Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault. Get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. We encourage our listeners to support all our sponsors. That includes Abel's Unknown Moore and Associates. I know some of you might think, I don't have enough money for a financial advisor, or maybe it hasn't crossed your mind at all. But the truth is, nearly everyone can benefit from financial guidance. The best part, there's no upfront costs. Abel's Unknown Moore and Associates offer an initial consultation so you can see if they're the right fit for you. It's not just about investing. It's about creating a plan that gives you flexibility and helps you build wealth over time for yourself and your family. Call Abel's Unknown Moore and Associates at 912-777-4128 or visit aimaint.com. I'm confident you'll be glad you did. The War Report has been compensated by Abel's Unknown Moore and Associates for this endorsement. AIM and Associates is a registered investment advisor. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The information in this advertisement is for informational purposes only and should not be considered personalized investment advice. All investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Last but not least, I want to thank our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. The summer is here. You want to be outside grilling with your family or staying in shape with some Golden's Cast Iron weights. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. We're back, and joining me in the second half of the show is senior writer from thewarreport.com, Logan Fowler. Logan, you've been doing great work on the written trail for us. For those of you who don't know, Logan joined our team about 3 weeks ago and has been doing a great job. You recently dropped an article talking about the dirty work in the trenches for Auburn and why it's important for them to build on that headed into the rest of the season. Look, Ball State and South Alabama won't present significant challenges for either side of the line, but when Oklahoma is up next, they could have some troubles if they cannot continue what we saw versus Baylor on the road in Waco. Talk to me about the line, man. Last year, they produced the second leading rusher in the conference in Jarquez Hunter. This year, they got off to a really good start because Jackson Arnold is the leading rusher in the conference after week one. That won't hold, but certainly Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb are the beneficiaries of an improved offensive line.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, obviously, I think the biggest storyline heading into the game last week was kind of Auburn's wide receivers, Jackson Arnold, talented crop of guys out wide against what was a weakness for Baylor. It was their secondary, right? So everybody was kind of looking for that pass game to kind of pop off and flourish, but there it was, the offensive line, right? The run game. Freeze mentioned Isaiah Too Tall Miller, a guy during his Monday press conference, somebody who stood out, right? He played great when Jeremiah Wright came off the field with a little bit of an injury, which he's fine, by the way, but Too Tall stepped right in, man, and the offensive line didn't miss a beat, right? 307 yards on the ground, which was the most in the SEC and 10th most in the country. PFF gave Auburn an offensive line, a run blocking grade of 65.3. And so, I think if you can continue to build on that, obviously, like you said, Ball State, South Alabama are probably not going to, present that big of a challenge up front defensively. But if you continue to groom that offensive line together, get them meshing, get some games under their belt together, then, I think obviously you're going to see that run game flourish and take off even more.
Look, on the other side of the ball, the defensive line did not allow anything on the ground. This is like the perfect symmetry for Auburn. The offensive line helps Auburn rush for over 300 yards, but the defensive line allows nothing in the run game for Baylor. Look, man, that looked like a bunch of men versus toddlers out there talking about the Auburn defensive line versus the Baylor run game. I know Hugh Freeze will be happy if DJ Durkin's defense can produce any result like that versus Oklahoma in a few weeks. Talk to me about the defensive line and what you saw on that side of the ball.
Yeah, super impressive, right? Again, I think one of the biggest question marks going into preseason camp was who was going to step up as a playmaker in the middle of that defensive line. Uh, Obviously, you're not, questioning what Keldrick Falk brings you on the outside. Amaris Williams is a guy that has a bunch of upside. Keyron Crawford was good for you last year, but who was going to step up in the middle, right? And you saw guys like Jay Hardy, uh, Bobby Travis and Williams, Jay Hardy stepped up in the middle. They only allowed 64 yards on the ground against a team who was returning 3 starters in the middle and a 1,000-yard back in Bryson Washington, right? So, I'd say they did a pretty well on the run defense. Linebackers helped out a little bit there. Robert Woodyard had a great couple first drives, but if you can build on that going forward and you can continue to develop that young talent you've got there, which you can expect to see more of those guys in the coming weeks. Darian Smith is another guy who Freeze mentioned on Monday as somebody who wished he would have played a little bit more. Said he gave A+ effort against Baylor there in the fourth quarter. He was fresh, but again, the rotation on the defensive line. If you've got 6, 7 guys who you're constantly rotating, maybe 15 to 20 snaps, but they're giving you A+ effort every single time, then that's something that's a valuable trait to have. And I think that you're going to continue to see Auburn's defensive line impress. I think the biggest thing, obviously, A+ in the run defense. Maybe could have made Sawyer Robertson a little bit more comfortable in the pass rush. Maybe helped out that the back end of that defense a little bit better, which obviously was it was pretty dismal showing from Auburn's secondary. But all in all, I think that Auburn's defensive line played really, really well against a team who was supposed to come in there and be able to run the ball on them.
Yeah, you mentioned them. You saw Sawyer Robertson. Like, look, he had a good day statistically, but at the end of the day, DJ Durkin was able to make them one-dimensional on offense. At this level, if you're going to be one-dimensional, it's going to be really tough to beat good teams. So, yes, they passed for a ton of yards, but Baylor played with a certain desperation on Friday, where they were really just. We talked about this on our Wednesday show. They were just a couple plays away from getting beat by like 40. It was a couple of fourth down conversion disasters away from getting beat by a whole lot of points in that game. But however, you got to give credit where credit's due. He's a great quarterback. Auburn did get after him, though. So he was the second most protected quarterback in the Big 12. Baylor allowed a pressure rate of only 23.5% on Sawyer Robertson, and he got sacked 4 or 5 times on Friday night. If they can continue that trend, who do you see emerging, not named Keldrick Falk, as a guy spending some time in that backfield, making quarterbacks uncomfortable?
Yeah, Amaris Williams, number 1. He jumps off the page. I watched him a couple times come off the line on Friday, man, and he just looked like a rocket. He obviously progressed a lot throughout the offseason. He mentioned to reporters throughout the preseason that, look, last year I wasn't really in the right mindset. I was a freshman. I was a kid. I wasn't there mentally to progress last year. This is a guy who played running back in high school. This guy is an elite athlete, and it showed on Friday night. I think that you'll continue to see him progress. You got Coach Rock over there working with that guy, getting him developed. Coach Rock worked with guys like Derek Hall and Colby Wooden, so he knows what he's doing. I think Keyron Crawford is another guy who, if you got Keyron Crawford flanking, Keldrick Falk and Amaris Williams, I think you've got a pretty good tandem rushing the passer on the outside. So, I think all 3 of those main guys coming off the edge are going to be really good for Auburn. I'm interested to see this weekend a guy like Jared Smith, if he gets some run. He's an athletic freak, 6'6", 250. Got to do a little bit of developing and get acclimated to the college game. But I think Auburn's got a super talented crop of edge rushers, and number 1, I think Amaris Williams is going to have a great year.
For those of you who don't know, we put out a PFF article grading Auburn's players at the end of every game. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned, please go to the website and check that out. Keldrick Falk, the highest graded end on Friday night. He received a grade of 73.6. At tackle, Jay Hardy and Darian Smith were the highest graded, coming in at 82.2 and 77.2. Man, look, anything in the mid-70s is really good. Anything over 80 is fantastic. So those guys grading out really well. I was a little shocked to see Malik Blockton grade so low. You know, and he played 29 snaps. They rotated a ton of guys, but he graded out really low.
Yeah, Malik Blockton was, you know, as I was watching the game Friday night, and obviously I'm going on computer looking, you know, taking breaks and such, but he was not a guy that I saw, you know, pop off a lot on Friday night, and he was certainly a guy I was expecting to be in. Not to say he won't be in contention, because he sure will. He's one of the hardest workers on the front, but yeah, he was somebody who I was expecting to jump off the field last night or Friday night, and he didn't.
Yeah, he's got time to improve. Look,
Yeah,
it was a tough game. He's got time to improve. Auburn, again, will continue to rotate a ton of guys, so it'll be fun to watch to see what those guys are able to do there. Logan Fowler, senior writer at thewarreport.com. I want to thank you for joining me today. Please head on over to the War Report to check out Logan's work, and you can follow him, Logan F. Fowler, on Twitter to see the work that he's posting there. Logan, thanks for joining me, man.
absolutely, man.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe, comment on the video, and while you're in the comments, do us a favor, show us some love, smash that super thanks button. Your financial support helps keep the work that we're doing here going. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TV Report on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, worry.